Okay, can we get my slides up in the back so I can, kind of see them? I've got to start with the customary keyline pie. I know Willem saw it earlier and asked, the relevance. I prefer to be behind the camera. And Willem kind of twisted my arm. I found out Monday that, okay, I'm doing a presentation since I didn't volunteer one. I was voluntold. This week was a busy week doing some volunteer work. So we'll see what I come up with the presentation, and maybe it's not as nerdy as some of the others. But I do have a nice little red pointer. I got to play with the technology. It seems to work, so you can see the cursor here. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me. So what am I going to talk about today? Out with the old, into the new. I'll talk a little about, or is that really going to be the case? Some of my considerations, some of the equipment that I was looking at, where am I going to put all of the things that I want to, and some of the lessons learned so far. So we'll start with, I had a two-door 2014 Jeep. I had gotten the two-door when I lost my company vehicle. I was 12 years staying away from amateur radio, but I needed to get back and find a new hobby because flying a helicopter was a little too expensive. So I did get the Jeep, and I had mounted one radio in it. And part of the reason for wanting to get a new vehicle is this was, I got tired of pulling the seats, the rear seat out of it to take test equipment and equipment up to sites. So I figured it was about time. I couldn't resist the little zoom there, the K2AD seal of approval. So it looks like from some of the places Doug and I went, and this was at Cheyenne Mountain, I found that on the A-pillar of my Jeep. And this particular Jeep, this is the equipment I had in it. I had the D710, Motorola UHF DMR, and a P25 on 900. I did have the HF rig in there, but I never wired it up. But one of the goals was to try to get most of the equipment in up front and not have to take it apart many times. As you can see, one of the pictures there in the middle, I believe this was taking it apart to get the DMR radio in, and that was something I did not want to do and go that far down. My new Jeep came in around Labor Day, a little earlier than I anticipated, so it was pretty quick turnaround. On the bottom right, you can see all of the equipment I pulled out of the other Jeep and just kind of boxed it back up. So some of the considerations on, whether that I was going to put radios or what to do in my new Jeep, I could have went with the easiest option. Just use a handheld, go about my day, and not drill any holes. I don't mind drilling the holes after selling and trading in my last Jeep. I did pull the equipment out, but I didn't get any more money from having holes and antenna mounts. I really prefer not to take the dash completely apart on this one, like I did on the last vehicle. The 24 Jeep Wrangler has a lot more airbags that I had to be really careful with. There's some in the seats, there's some above the roll bars. So that was a consideration when I was coming up that I wanted to, kind of avoid. There's heating vents under the seats, so it wasn't conducive to add radios under the seats. I wanted it to look good or like a professional install, at least in my own mind. I wanted some power control that, the radios would come on and off with the ignitions. I also wanted to bypass that. I didn't want to run my, main cranking battery down when I was out doing an event. And I didn't want it torn apart for days. So I wanted to break the install up into little pieces so I could see some progress as I was going along. So a lot of it is going to be, in the pictures rather than typing a lot of words. But I did a lot of thinking. This is what my plan is, or what I am installing in the Jeep. I wanted to do some HF. Hopefully the ignition noise and some things is not going to be that bad. It is to be determined. So Yaesu FT891 for my HF. I had an ATS 100 antenna from the past that I'll use, but I'm also putting a tuner in it so I can, if I'm at a park or up in the mountains, that I can connect another antenna to the M&O mount. I'm going to have a headset and a CW key. Maybe I'll get motivated and get back into it. The N7CTM, and then the Kenwood VM8000. I wanted to have a commercial radio, Part 90, just from some of the repeaters and some things that I use. The owners require that we have type accepted radios. The antenna choices, I did a lot of looking on YouTube and the internet for mounts and what I could use, and the what do they call it? The Crowell antenna bracket is what I found. They make them for the passenger and driver side. The 2024 did not have the AM/FM antenna mounted on the outside. It's in the window. So I was able to put both of the antennas on the front of the vehicle for their dual band half-wave diamond antennas. And again, the Yaesu ATS 100. I know there's a newer variety out there. I had it in the past. Hopefully it'll work after having it for about 20 years. So if I didn't have it, I would probably go with, I think it was the Tar Heel antenna, and I may do that at some point. And then the HF antenna, I found a beadlove antenna mount. I didn't bring it up, but I can show it if somebody's interested. I didn't like the brass color, so I did send it away to get powder coated. So the goal is to kind of put it where it's shown in the picture, but I know yesterday I was kind of looking, and there's been some changes from my 2014. So I've got to figure out if that can be mounted there and what it's going to take, or come up with another option.
Are those antennas on the hood are mounted? Are they on the side, or how do they mount?
Okay, so you see the on the top little picture that shows the mount. There's let me see if I can. So there's the mount there, and there's two. This is not metal; it's kind of like a plastic. There's two original holes and some screws that I actually took the screws out, got some longer screws to put in, and mounted the antennas. I did go ahead and add a ground lug onto at least to give it a ground, but it's not needed for a half wave. Did that answer your question? The other consideration was with the power, and I guess the first thing is I don't want to be out and run the battery down on an event or accidentally leave it on. So I went ahead and I would have liked to have had a LiFo battery to put in it, but they're not very conducive for cold temperatures and in the Jeep. And putting if I had a solar panel on it full the time and it was outside, maybe you could do some heating. So for the Jeep, I found a Genesis Off-Road Gen 3 kit. It has an isolator in it. It will link the batteries when the alternator voltage gets up. That was kind of an intense install. Later on, we'll see some pictures to remove the old battery cage and put that in. On the left is a Havas charge guard. I wanted to be able to have an ignition control to turn the radio on and off. It's got a delay for turning the radio on and off, and I'll put a switch on it that I can bypass a switch and force it on if I would like. The only downside I've found with the Havas charge guard is the delay to turn it off is 5 seconds, and the next granularity is 15 minutes. So I will set it for 15 minutes. The other concern was with the smart alternator and also running HF. If you get down, to low 12 volts, you'll start getting a reduced power. So the Victron that I have, it's a battery charger, 12 volt, 50 amps, but it also has a power supply mode that is controlled with Bluetooth. So the plan is I'll set it to 30 amps max, and I'll probably put it about 13.2 volts. My only hope is that it's quiet. We haven't had a chance. I know Mike Pappas, was going to take a look at some of the noise. We haven't managed to get together yet. But I'm hoping, I've heard good things about the Victron. If you're ever going to get one, they come in a couple varieties. There's a smart ones, which has Bluetooth, and there's the ones that doesn't have Bluetooth. And to kind of see some of the capabilities, you can actually download the Victron app and load one of their demo devices, and just to see the functionality that you have. It's similar to some of the other ham boosters that you see. In the future, I want to go ahead and I'm going to put some networking gear. I don't know where I'm going to mount it, but it's on the roadmap, and I've already started ordering some of the pieces. There'll be a PepWave, my 5G LTE modem, Starlink. I did get the Starlink mount there. Again, I wanted it to match, so I got it power coded. And I don't have the Mini yet, but I know a few people that have them that I may borrow them to give it a try. But up on the upper right, I found a power supply that I can use for the Starlink Mini. And what I like about it is it'll do 100-watt PoE. I can feed the adapter just with an Ethernet cable, and you plug Ethernet into, with that connector into the Starlink Mini, and it's got the power cord. So this way I'll give it a try, and I know Mike shows some interest. I did bring it today so you can get an idea of the size. And then I'll put a Microtech router in because it's got some more flexibility for some VPNs and so forth. The PepWave has got some subscriptions if you want to do VLANs and doing some different things. So I'll basically just use that for to put the LTE in, and also to put the Starlink Mini, prioritize the Starlink Mini that will switch it, and then I'll do everything else and use the Wi-Fi in the dual band Microtech router. So the next question is, where am I going to put all of this stuff? I spent a lot of time, in the Jeep, sitting there, maybe with a nice beverage of my choice, and trying to think about it. And I come up with, what at least it made sense to me. I did have a overhead Molly console in that. And right what it's all red there is going to be the control head for the D710, and then I put some speakers on a bar in the back. Doug was wondering about the speakers in the back because he was hitting his head, so we may have to make some changes. My ultimate goal would be to have one speaker with a mixer, but part of the problem if everything was the commercial radios, you can get a low output on it, but the ham gear is all amplified. So being able to use some pots or come up with something and then amplify it, I haven't found the perfect solution. The current speaker location it's got some vibration in it. David suggested I put some rubber gas or washers to isolate it. That didn't seem to help, so we'll see how it goes. I also put some lights in, rig for red at night, and at least I can see something. The picture on the left is, since not everything is working at this point. This was just kind of to stage the stuff, do different pieces as I was kind of working through the project. On the left, I put a charger for my phone, and on the right, I'd be the control head for HF on the 891. I made some good progress. The biggest decision was where am I going to mount the equipment? I guess I pushed that to the last. It was the most complicated in my opinion. But I think I come up with a plan. I don't have a truck like John Maxwell, that you got room under the center console to put toys all the way under the back seat. So I'll do a little smaller design. So before we get to my box, I mentioned the dual battery kit. On the left is the final install of what it looks like. I run some power cables. There's a 40 amp breaker that's running off the aux battery. The picture in the middle this was a little scary on a new vehicle, is pulling the fuse block, pulling a bunch of other parts to take the factory battery box out and go ahead and put the new dual battery system in. It's got two group 25 batteries that are isolated. On the right, again, I put the antennas and I run the power wires. And on the bottom right was the wiring for the power, for the control head for the D710, the microphone for the D710 that was just laying in the back of the vehicle. So it was like this for a while, but after looking at it and saying, well, I've got power, I've got antenna, I've got everything that I need, I did throw the D710 in while I was working on my box, so at least I had a radio in the vehicle. So this is, again, the picture of the back with the wires. That was the space that I had that I was going to build my box in. The center picture was kind of the frame that we started with, and you'll notice it's got a cutout. Part of it on the Jeep, there is a storage under a panel, and I did not want to lose it. I wanted access to it. Plus, I did not want to lose the space on top of it. So on the right, it just kind of shows I lifted up the lid and I needed to have access to that. So that was part of the design considerations. And so the building continued on this. Dave, when we had talked a little about it, mentioned to go ahead and kind of put the kind of perspective for how wide the box is, pretty much 38 inches by 29 inches, and with the top about 7 feet or 7 inches tall. My space for mounting radios is 35 by 11.5 by about 5.25 inches. So that was kind of the constraint. I'm not a carpenter, but I did learn to use some pocket screws. They seem to work real well on 3/4 inch plywood. 1/2 inch plywood, not so good. So Dave and we reverted to using some staples or some brads on that. The upper picture is, I do have the drawer raised up so you can see into the back of and get to some of the equipment that I've got mounted. And I'll show some pictures of that in a second. I did want a drawer on the front. This is, I think when Doug mentioned about, if you make it too complicated, it's not going to work. I opted to make it a little complicated here. So the drawer does slide out. but also the whole drawer will raise up and I can put a little stick in there to get to all of the equipment or all of the toe straps and things below. And then I've got a cover on the front where I'm going to be mounting the radios. Mounting the equipment, the one thing I've learned is I know the 891 I had never used. I planned on doing FT8. The VM8000 I hadn't used. I needed a code plug and trying to get all of this working. So it's good, easier to do it at the comfort of my desk than in the back of a Jeep. So that was the attempt on the left. Everything just in my office, USB cables, hooked up an antenna, made sure that I could get FT8 working. It had some of the challenges. I spent several hours trying to get audio to work on the FT8. And finally to find out that, I was set everything at 9600 baud, but the audio on my USB device, which was a Masters Communication DR100, was set to 9600, but the audio needed to be at a 1200 baud level, and then FT8 started working. I made some brackets, had to do some custom brackets, was able to get with Doug. He's got, he had moved, so his brake and his shear is in a Connex with a lot of his other treasures and in his bins, but we were able to move a few things around and cut some metal and make me some brackets. The center picture, power distribution with the power poles. I put some fans in there to, just to figure out what am I going to get for heat. And pretty much on the far right was how I laid everything out, the D710, 891, the VM8000, and my power distribution. So that's where I'm pretty much at right now. I've got some speaker wires that I've still got to connect. I've got some RF cables to build. I was hoping to have it in the vehicle until I found that I may need some room to remove some panels before I can put the HF antenna. So hopefully it'll be soon. I'd like to find another project. Yes.
Tristan asks, what's the box coated with? Is that felt or?
Oh, I went ahead and I primed everything black to start with, and then on it's carpet, it's black carpet for like headliners and in the car. It was Amazon is where I got it. I'm not sure it was really marine quality. I did go ahead and cut it and glued it on. I'm not a carpenter to lay carpet, but I was pretty happy with the way it came out. Anything else, Dave?
Yeah, I think this is on. Let's see. Steve is commented, take a look at the RDL FP-MX4. He uses it with a powered speaker, and there's a link here.
Okay.
Something
maybe
for you to go look at.
If you think about it, maybe copy that link or send it to me. I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I definitely like to do some things with the speakers. Some of the lessons learned with this: measure once, cut twice, and it's still too short. That's very true with this project. Not all Home Depot workers measure too accurately when cutting plywood. Cost me a little extra money from half inch to quarter inch off. Wood routers, not the IT type routers, they're not very forgiving. And one bad move will rip a big hole. Luckily, it was just in the wood and not a finger, because I can just see what it would mangle your finger with. There was plan on many trips to Home Depot and Ace Hardware for screws, nuts, connectors. You're always missing one, or you bought 6 screws and one of them wasn't the right size when you bagged them at Ace. Plan on multiple Amazon packages daily. There for a while of getting bits and pieces and heat shrink and split loom that I couldn't find, but once I ordered it, now I have a whole tub of it if anybody needs some split loom. There was stuff that I thought that, hey, I would really like it to work. I do, try to install it and figured that I didn't want to go this way, so I've got some extra pieces and parts. I do suspect that my electric bill in the last couple of months is going to be fairly high. We've had some cold weather. I have a electric heater in the garage, and a couple times I'd have to leave it on at night to try to get some of the paint to dry. I need remedial training with carpeting and woodworking, and the paint smell is pretty strong when painting brackets in the basement. I mean, I noticed it. The better half really didn't say anything, but it was pretty strong upstairs.
Probably one additional suggestion I'd make is track down a friend with a table saw.
Oh, I forgot about, yeah, I think that one was there. Didn't I mention? Let's go back. Oh yeah, have a friend with a new saw that's willing to help let you use it if you help him assemble it. Thanks, Dave. So I guess, a little nerdy, maybe a little overkill, but overall, I'm happy where I'm at. Unfortunately, it's not all installed and complete, but I hope to have that soon.
Well, since you're sort of a Kenwood guy, I'm kind of surprised that you didn't mount something like a TS990 on the dashboard and then have a periscope to see over it.
Well, I could have, but, I got the 891 during COVID. And I had mounted the deck in my other Jeep in hopes of getting HF in it. I never got to it. I mean, it still had the little sticky thing on the LCD screen that I just took off. But I've got, I really was thinking about maybe doing some POTAs or when I'm doing some events to try HF. It may not be very conducive while I'm driving, but I figured I'd give it a try. It's been a whole bunch of years since I had HF in a vehicle. I know there's been a lot of engine noise and some different things with all of the computers in the vehicle. So who knows what it's going to be like with this. So far with the D710, when I had the temporary install with everything shoved under the back seat, it seemed to work quite well.
Good luck with just an 857 that I've had forever, and one of those Mr. Potato Head microphones, so that you can, change frequencies and stuff like that right on the microphone. That's kind of convenient.
I've got the microphone that I can do that with the 891, but I wanted to be able to use a headset, so I did get one with a single earbud. I've got a little pickle stick that I can key it. And, I had a nice little CW key that, James was telling me that the Bengali is some of the better ones. So James turned me onto those, and they were kind of expensive. But my goal is to maybe get back and do some CW, or when Doug gets bored going to a radio site, he can do some CW on the way. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Critiques. Thank you.